You are listening to Conversations with Yoube, a podcast produced by bisnation.net members.
Alright guys, I am here with Blackout, who is taking the place of Tapout, who for whatever reason decided he couldn't chat with an old friend. And I'm not really happy about that, but I am happy to talk with you, Blackout, so don't take that as an insult.
I'll try not to.
Alright, we have everyone in here saying they want the Daz Cam. I feel like this is a spin-off of the Vanilla Milk Dan Cam. I'm not going to put any pressure on you, but by the end of this, the stream may just be loaded with hashtag Daz Cams. So it depends on how you can handle all of that and if you can resist the urge to do so.
They're going to have to keep spamming Dazcam for now, because it's take me a good at least 10 minutes to set it up, because I'd have to go and dig it out, because it's in a drawer somewhere, but I know it's knocking around. I don't think you've got the time for that, so...
No. That's an automatic rip to Dazcam.
Yeah.
Alright, so, where are you from? Your accent sounds familiar. It sounds tap-out-ish.
Tap-out-ish? No. I'm from England.
Oh,
from
really?
Manchester.
Okay. So... Yeah. There was one thing I noticed, and I don't know if you listened to HP and I's podcast immediately preceding this, but we were touching on the fact that EU is going to have some issues as far as the fact they're going to have to play at pretty crazy times. And
yeah.
How do you feel about having to play a game, if I read it correctly, at 5:30 in the freaking morning, man?
Yeah, it's seriously late. Like, it was yesterday that someone, like, in our group chat on Skype said, you know, is this for real? We've got to play at, like, 5:30 in the morning. And I think that's UK time, and we've got some, like, Swedish players, so that's, like, an hour ahead, so that's 6:30 for them, if I get that right. So I wasn't too happy about it, because I thought, you know, I wanted to play more around, you know, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, because I feel like that's more fair.
Yeah.
For the EU players, but I guess that's just how it's panned out, and I'm not going to lie, my body clock over the past 2 weeks has been destroyed. I've been waking up at like 8 PM, 9 PM anyway, just so like it's all in good time to play pre-mades with all the practice and stuff, so yeah, my sleeping pattern right now fits it, but I don't think it's quite fair to some of the EU players, but for our team it seems to not really affect people and their judgment on it, you know, they're just like, well, I can make that anyway because they've devoted so much time into it, and, you know, any real-life stuff that they may have going on, they've
Can you think of any way to work around it?
Very simply. Like, the EU people should be played first in the evening. So I can't remember what time that it actually starts. Is it like 8 PM or 7 PM, like, EST? So
I believe it's 6 to 1:30. It starts at 6. It
starts at 6, so like at 6 PM, you just get the people who have EU teams to play first. Granted, you know, the way that it's going to look, because normally you do the winners bracket, losers bracket, blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't matter what order it's actually done in. So I don't see why that couldn't be taken into consideration and maybe changed to make it a little easier for us EU guys. But again, that might be a problem for some people, because I know there's one guy in our team that quite often he can't play until later on because of work and stuff like that. So he can't get until like 9 o'clock server time. So I guess, you know, I don't know his schedule for that over the course of the Twink Cup, so I don't know, we're just gonna roll with it. But I mean, just something like that could be thought about and touched on.
But also, it's almost like, imagine, like, say the schedule switched, right? It's like, okay, we'll put the teams with predominantly EU players first. Then, you know, somehow someone else is gonna be like, oh no, this doesn't work. It's one of those things, I don't know if you agree with it, you just can't please everybody.
Yeah, that's the thing though, like, because what I found, it's like, you know, there's some people that like play from the US, and it's like, oh my god, we're playing at 11 o'clock at night, and they're kicking off about it, and I'm like, mate, I'm waking up at 9 o'clock so I can play at 5 in the morning. Like, you know, it's like EU people, we're just so flexible, we just roll with it, and all like the people who are bickering and bitches and shit are the US guys, no offense, but that's just how it is, but we're just happy to do it because we just want to get this thing going.
Well, also, does that kind of come into play where it's a US hosted tournament, really? So is it kind of one of those almost when you're in Rome things, do as the Romans do, where it's, if it was a EU hosted tournament, then EU can set the terms, so to speak, and try and work around US schedules, but it really comes down to the US people that would have to fit into the EU schedule.
Yeah, I feel like that's exactly what it is, you know? I mean, if the Twink Cup was like EU based, then the US guys, they'd have to be playing would be earlier on, like midday for them guys, if it was a Twink Cup that was hosted at the same time on EU clocks. So, it's just one of them things. We knew that this could potentially happen coming into the Twink Cup, that the time scalings and stuff are just going to be completely crazy for us, and it's going to have to change our routines. But we committed to that. We acknowledged it, and we're just going to crack on with it and just play. I don't know, if people are going to sleep beforehand from, and stuff like that, and then wake up when it's their time to play or something to set up labs. I don't know. Well, I'm definitely going to stay up. I don't want to miss anything.
I was trying to think about it, and I always laugh. God, I'm trying to think. Maybe Restopathic or whatever has the term soccer dads for us old people. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And HP's like, yeah, some people are going to complain about having to be up at 1 in the morning. I'm like, yeah, I would be one of those people. That is really late for me.
Really? Well, I suppose, some people have quite strict routines and stuff like that they need to keep to, whether it be work or, any responsibilities they have that they meet. But, I don't know, the group of guys that we have, we're just so flexible. One could say, maybe everyone's a bit of a bum, does nothing, so they'll just roll.
Or at least schedule nothing around the Twink Cup.
Yeah, exactly.
So moving on with your group of people, you have I'd say you have a decent EU portion and some US portion. Can you kind of give, I don't want to ask you to go into too many specifics, because I know Muskie hit me up earlier and was like, I would rather talk about exactly how MIS came in here. So I don't want you to speak kind of out of turn, but can you kind of give some insight as to how MIS came to be part of your squad?
Well, that's quite funny, actually, because Team Ping and Team MIS, pretty much around the same time, without each other knowing. We only discovered this yesterday or the day before when we was talking about it. We was going through the same issues as each other at the same time, and it turned out in the end that it worked out that, that those guys, for reasons that I don't know whether people want me to cover properly or whatever, but that they ended up coming over to us. Now,
well, can you just lightly touch on those issues, just because so people can understand? I can do that.
If I get this right, because I didn't know anything about this until I got prompted on it the other day. It was a group of friends. They had a core team of maybe 6 or 7 players that had been playing since TBC, been pre-made in the past and stuff like that, and all was well and good. But then they kept filling up the roster, and then people say, "Oh, I can't make this time to play for practice," and then people were saying, "Oh, I can't even make the Twink Cup because this thing's come up." So they kept getting people in and losing people, just like Team Ping did.
Yeah.
And we was going through the same problems, and we was fretting about it a little. And it got to a point where they said that they was doing practice and stuff like that, and they never had a whole team, and they was constantly getting subs in all the time. And it kind of grated on the teams a little bit, because it was kind of well, what's the point in practicing without a full team, because we're not going to have full team synergy by the Twink Cup, and by how late it actually was by the time that the MIS people merged with us. They was under the impression they couldn't fill their roster, because I think, if I'm right, that some of their roster that they needed players for, there was other teams like ourselves that needed that role to be filled. So it was a limited market on people that was available that was actually considered good enough to go to these and play in these teams, So they disbanded, and we heard about it, so we was like, okay, well, they have an FC that we need, they have a Boomkin that we need, and they have a Hunter that we need. So we straight away went up to them guys. Oh, and Resto Shaman as well, which is on our sub list. So we went up to them guys and said, well, you're more than welcome to come play with us, try it out, and if you like playing with us, then you can stick around. Or if you want to go do your own thing, remake another team, or join someone else's team, so be it. But we played together once. Everyone got on really well. The people had not already priorly known each other, and we had a good time. And we did kind of well that day. So we figured, we'll just make this our team, and that's when we hit up our roster on Twink Info.
Jeez, this almost seems like serendipity that both of you guys came together. You both had your issues, and somehow your issues complemented their issues, and you came together to form what we now know as Ping.
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy, and it's an actual godsend to us, because I still think now, to this day, we wouldn't have had a full roster, because we was looking for these roles for so long. It must have been months. We was looking for a Boomkin, we was looking for a Hunter, and someone would have come, and then they say, "Oh, I can't make it," or "I can't make practice," and "Oh, I'm not really interested in playing in the Twink Cup anymore," and all these different issues. Our Boomkin went to prison. that we have. You know what I mean? Like, you know.
Can we get some details on that, or is that too much?
I don't know. All I know is that the guy who was like on probation or something happened. He'd never tell us, and he was like, "Guys, I'm in prison. I can't make it."
So he used his one phone call to let you guys know he couldn't make the Twink Cup?
Yeah, pretty much. Skype, like, you know.
At least you know he was dedicated.
Yeah. You know, he was mindful, to say the least, so that's great. You know, I don't want to call out any names, but names are coming out in chat, so...
Oh, well, we don't need to say them on the cast.
Yeah, I'm not going to. But, yeah.
Oh, man. All right, okay, so there's one thing that I'm not sure you're going to want to talk about, but I need to ask you about, because it was one of... For the viewer, it was very intense. But for you playing, it may have been intense, or it may have just been like, I need to stop pushing this button.
We'll have big hits if he does.
And I'm putting this so you guys in stream can see it now. And that is the Disc Priest Monk that you guys had against SR. And that was at the same time crazy. And I'm trying to put myself in your place, where if it was just a random arena game, I think I'd be like, I'm done, dude. Just whatever. But given everything that was behind that match, like, how did that feel to you at the moment while it was going on?
If I quote myself in Skype, I was like, for fuck's sake, how did that happen? But in the heat of the moment, like, actually watch the frames, like, what's their priest called? I can't actually make it out on there, but whatever he's called, he was taking so, like, I was absolutely trashing on that guy, and Bone was at high health, like, you know, Curly wasn't even putting out half of the damage what it felt like I was putting out to their priest. I knew it was a matter of time. I had almost 30 seconds, I think, left on my stomp to come up, and that's what I was waiting for. But Curly's stomp came up first, and they managed to, I think he got a penance off, was it? Maybe, or was it a smite? I think he smited to help out with the damage in that war stomp, and it just managed to finish Bone off. Now, I didn't expect him to die in that war stomp because he was quite high health when the stomp went off, considering, and the amount of pressure I was putting on their priest, I never would have anticipated that he would have been able to actually contribute in damage to score the kill, because if he hadn't contributed in damage, I don't think he'd have gone down there. So, I was debating in the heat of the moment when he was really low to start hitting my heal button. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know, you see me for a second, it's like I'm almost tilting or something. My character just stands still, and I'm like, because I'm just watching what he's doing. I'm watching his health, and I'm like, I don't want to lose my pressure. What do I do? But he just goes down that quickly that it was a little too late. And so, granted, if I would have healed him there, you know, what my initiative was telling me to do, he wouldn't have died. And by the way that the damage was actually rolling out there, we probably would have taken that game. But we may not as well. You know, it might have gone into deeper dampening. His war stomp would have come back up if I didn't kill him. My stomp, and they'd have won anyway. I don't know. But I had a feeling that my stomp, when that came up, I would have scored the kill definitively, and it just happened that way. And I think that really set us back for the second game after that as well. I can't remember exactly what happened there, but I'm pretty sure it was some either form of drastic miscommunication or a really stupid error as to why that we lost the second game as well.
Well, it's funny you bring up like the miscommunication or a drastic error, because in the finals, did you watch the finals between Harvest and SR?
I did, yeah.
They kind of found themselves in a similar situation, and that was due to a miscommunication between Moran and Nettie, where Moran wanted to sheep Saxon,
That's
and
right,
then Nettie came in with a penance, and then out of, like, Saxon was like, hi, Moran. Bye, Moran. And they came down to the same thing. So, like, when you were watching that, we're like, oh, my God, this is like deja freaking vu. He's going to do it again? Or did you think somehow Sax would be able to pull it off? Like, what was up there?
I was all in Team Harvest's corner, you know, due to the nature of Tap Out, our team leader, being, like, brothers or whatever he is.
Yeah.
So, you know, because we said as long as, like, one of us wins the whole thing, it's like a whole team victory, you know what I mean? We're always happy to see either one of us win the whole thing. But, you know, I spoke to, like, Living just after, you know, after that he won the finals and stuff like that. And he said, dude, I just went full YOLO. And when Pennant's totally fired him or whatever he did. And he said, just give him the D.
Of course.
He managed to go down. It was like the best clutch decision he could have made. But at the time when we was watching it, there was me, there was our Boomkin Bone, there was Tap Out, there was I don't think it was Muskie. No, it couldn't have been Muskie because he was hosting the whole thing. But there was someone else there as well. And when Harvest Mage went down, we was all like, "Oh shit! No, they've lost. No way, they lost." And then everyone else they said, "Oh fuck this shit!" And I heard someone's headset come halfway off, and I went, "Whoa, cross kill!" Then everyone went, "What? Really?" Everyone started tabbing back in. Then and was like, "Oh my god, they're bringing it back! Holy shit!" And they managed to bring it back, and we was going crazy at our end. When they won the whole thing as well, we was cheering.
Hell yeah!
After it because I was so happy for the guys, and hearing Living on Skype afterwards, he was going.
Oh, I really wish I could have been like a fly on the Skype wall, but that I was about 20 feet away from where he was talking, because that had to have been the loudest freaking thing ever.
Yeah, it really was, because everyone knows Living. He's an absolute hilarious guy. Everyone loves him for the way he is, and it's just a living reaction. He just his reaction just in whole, it was just what you expect from Living.
I could just imagine some oi cheezels. Ah!
Yeah, I can't remember what he said, but the whole of our Skype call, we was all happy. He just put a smile on everyone's face even more than already, because we was a bit bummed out that we got knocked out where we didn't feel like we should have got knocked out. Because don't get me wrong, skill ratio, they did really well. They did a lot better in that whole arena tournament than I anticipated that they would do, and the reason for that is, and I think that even Moran mentioned it when he got interviewed after that we faced them for 6 games just before the tournament started, and I think we beat them 6-1, really, really badly, and it looked like they'd never had any practice or played together before, so we thought, oh well, they're not going to be that great. So maybe we went into that game underestimating them as well. That could have been have a big impact as to the result of the game. But yeah, the first 2 games was Blackout using landslide. I was oh shit. So I swapped it over and played the legal weapons, Berserk and Elemental Force, and we still was winning. So we was pretty confident that we'd be able to take them when we got matched up with them. But granted that they really got the stuff together and they did really, really well. So credits to them for that. To be honest, they took us all by surprise, and we was pretty bummed out by that. Due to 3 hours prior, we was beating them quite effortlessly.
And it's also funny too, because on Saturday I had a conversation with Pizza, and he was saying that there was almost no thought put into their arena thing, and so that blew me away too. Where just last minute they were able to put together this team that really came within, I guess you could say, a miscommunication from winning the whole thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's actually, if you put it that way, it is quite surprising to see it in that context, because yeah, if it was a miscommunication, they would have took that whole series. But yeah, it's like I say, it's surprising that they managed to do that well. And Big Moran, he's known in the 19 Twink community, and he's known at the endgame community for being a really good player, arena, however you want to judge him. So I think when he faced us before the cup, he realised straight away how the comp needs to be played, and I feel I can imagine their Skype that he was leading the group a lot more so than maybe Curly would have been, because I felt on our Skype, because it's the mage is all the CC, so he has to kind of anticipate the direction the game that he wants it to go, and he has to tell everyone else this is what he wants to do, so you have to follow because I can't do this kind of thing. So having Moran on the mage there, I think that would have really helped with his arena experience and stuff like that he has. That's a big contribution to the team.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it doesn't surprise me as much as it would if it was another team that doesn't have those really experienced arena players in there getting through to the finals. But it's a big surprise, because a lot of teams did put quite a lot of effort into practicing games before it, and we was one of them. We was really prepared. We was we want mirrors. We love the idea of mirrors, because we always every mirror that we faced, we either had a very, very 50-50 win to loss rate, or we had a very high win to loss rate against every other team. So we felt we was in a really strong position. When we lost our first game to skill ratio, and it was actually, I think we lost 1 to JCM as well, and we had a bit of, because it's pretty well known that our mage Yorkie and our priest, who was Bone, they like to go at each other's throats over things, situations. You should have done this. You can't do this. And, no, why? I should be able to do that. You're just bad. Blah 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 blah. They're always at each other's throats. All of the great friends. It's quite hard in the tournament environment to play alongside that. Especially like I only met these guys like 5 days before. So I was still getting to know them as people. But no, that's all past. We're just focusing onto the Warsong part of the tournament.
So let's move on to the Warsong part of the tournament then. The standard questions I've been asking everyone are, who do you think the favorite is, with yourself removed, of course? And actually, let's just start with that before I hit the second one.
Who do I think the favorite is? I mean, I should probably put a background on this. Like, I came over and joined this team, Team Ping. For me, I'd never played in the US before. I had no idea who anyone was, who was good, who wasn't, who were good guilds, who weren't. So when I first arrived here and people were talking to me about good guilds, it was all Harvest skill ratio. They were the two guilds, that was like the most competitive and, performing at the highest kind of standard. So when we first started out, we started really getting our 10-mans going. We faced a lot against Harvest, so I felt like when we faced them, there was some times where our mid was much stronger than theirs was, but objectively they was better than us. And sometimes we did like a little bit. It's never really a thing with Harvest that you can massively outplay them objectively, because that's one of their key strengths of their group. I can definitely say that for sure. But sometimes, we make some good objective plays, and with the strength of our mid, we've managed to take games off them and stuff like that. We've never faced skill ratio. But then it was only about 4 or 5 days ago we faced Waka Flocka. And up until then, I never really knew any of the players in the team or anything, and it was the first time I got to see what they was actually capable of, and they have such a strong mid, and it kind of set me back a little bit, thinking, right, well, I need to spend a lot of time on my team and put a lot more work into developing our mid game, our synergy, our coordinated swaps. We was doing it well before, but it could, we always could have made it a little bit better, but we felt like we didn't need to because it was working. So now it's up to a point where, up until coming to the Twink Cup, that we're developing, our intricate play, the micro game, if you will, in the team fights, and then the macro game, we're working on some form of objective plays as to, when this happens, do this kind of thing, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page, so that we don't get any hesitation on the day.
So how much experience have you guys been able to get as far as sort of the exhibition games go?
I'd say it was only probably about 3 weeks ago that we really started knuckling down and getting pre-maze done as a full group.
And by full group, you mean MIS and you guys together?
Yeah, when we merged. I think it was 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure exactly how long ago. I think it was 3 weeks ago. That's when they merged with us. We've actually gone as a full 10-man. But prior to that, in the past, we was always 6 people, because we only had 6 people on our roster. Then we get a lot of subs in and stuff like that, and we're just trying to, just get some practice together, get to know each other's voices, get to know how each other likes to play, see each other's play styles, so that we could figure out our own way of how we want to play the game. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's so important. A lot of people don't even realize. It's funny you say getting to know each other's voices, because that, in a sense, really does mean a lot. If you just hear a random voice come out sheep this guy or whatever, and that person's someone who is playing defense, and you recognize the voice, you're like, oh, cool, I know that's not really for me. But if you're like, wait, who the fuck just said something? You're like, is that something I need to be aware of right now? What's going on?
It does get like that. It becomes a serious cluster in any kind of voice comm that you try and use when it's just a load of people that you don't know, and especially when you get a group of vocal people. That's the thing that we had, because at one point we wasn't very vocal, then all of a sudden when MIS joined, and everyone was really hyped for practicing, it was just an absolute mess on voice comms. Everyone was like, Blackout, you're too loud, I can't hear such and such a body. So, we've kind of sorted that out now pretty much, and for a while I was getting to know the new guys' voices, and they was getting to know our voices and stuff like that. I went through this thing where I was saying, when you're speaking to people, you need to refer to them by name, and when you're replying to someone, you need to reply to them by name. So that people know who's talking to who, and they can listen to what they're saying, and that might affect a third person's game, if they're doing this, I can assist them, so I'm going to go as well, or I'm going to do this. It helps people decide what they need to be doing. So we implemented that, but we're all very familiar with each other's voices now, so, that's kind of fizzed out. But that was one way that we managed to develop our voice comm game, with it going from so messy. It's way more organised now. But yeah, we still have a couple of things that we need to work on. before the Twink Cup. But I think if we manage to get 50% of what I feel that we need to perfect done before the Twink Cup, we're going to have a very good chance of going quite far. I'm not going to say win the thing, because I think we're one of the teams that has less experience playing together. And
well, by definition, I mean, if it's two guilds coming together 3 weeks ago, you can't possibly have the amount of experience. I mean, maybe individually, if you add it all together, you will. But, I mean, you just can't collectively have the same experience or be expected to have that as far as teams like, you know, as you mentioned, Harvest or Skill Ratio that have been playing together for years. Well, actually, I shouldn't mention Harvest because they've had a lot of, you know, turnover, but especially Skill Ratio, who's had a relatively similar comp for a long time or played in the bracket much longer.
Yeah, you know, that, like, you're right about what you're saying about bringing collective experience together, and you know, I wouldn't say the collective experience of our team is like low. I think between us all, we all have played a lot of pre-mades with different groups of people, or maybe if it's a lot of real ID pre-mades or, you know, previous guild pre-mades or whatever it may be. But there's some of the issues that I think every like group has when they just form together, is that people like to do things or know to do things in one way, and then when you get like a leader, I mean, because like during the pre-maze I often do a lot of the leading, and like the direction of the games, the plans and strats beforehand. And I'm not going to lie, until I played with this team, and I think I joined the team at about February or March, I'd not played pre-made since Wrath. So I jumped in. I remember my first game, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be really easy, you know, going to face all this thing. I jumped in, and RFC was at 6 stacks, and I just remember all of a sudden this Boomkin like firing a Star Surge, displacing over 5 points, ambush with a
it wasn't
Hunter
Kunz, was it?
as well. I can't remember who it was because, you know, I'm still not very good with everyone's names right now. Still, and I was just like, holy crap! How did that just happen? I was like, whoa, this is a whole different meta from what I'm used to playing. You know, so I learned really fast, and after about a month of playing, I actually felt like, you know, I get this now, and I feel like I'm in a way where I can actually guide a team, you know, making calls during games and stuff like that to help the the direction of where we want our game to go. So it seems to have come to that point now. So yeah, I just lost my train of thought there. I was going to say something else.
Well,
Next question.
I'll just kind of go. I'll just kind of go off of what you're saying, and I'm looking at your roster right now, and I'm just going by my personal experience, just, you know, messing around in pugs, and there are some people that have really stood out to me. Tops of which is Yorkie, who has sheeps that would make a shepherd jealous. I mean, that dude is crazy with those things. I want to break my keyboard every time I see him in a game. Party Girl X, I've seen play a mean chamois. I mean, Casino HB's talked about how tricky he can be for a long time. Artonkin, I'm sorry. I mean, you have a lot of people on there that they're good. And I'm very, very curious and excited to see how well you guys can mesh and bring what you've learned over the past month or so together into the Twink Cup and push that in and possibly, you know, maybe make it. I mean, don't sell yourself short, you know?
No, I never would sell ourselves short, you know. But I do feel like to compete with some of the top teams right now, we do have some things that we need to touch up on. A few strategical things that I need to cover with the team, which we're going to do. I mean, I've got scheduled over the next few days. And once everyone understands these concepts, then executing them is going to be much easier, because a lot of the times now we're finding objectively that we've been quite weak because, you know, something's happened and no one's responding to it because it's like, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? And we're just kind of focusing way too much on the team fight kind of thing. So I feel like I'm just going to go over a lot of things with the team, talk about objective stuff, which will already know, you know, but when I actually point out, if this happens, I want you to do this, so that there's no, like, you know, doubt in anyone's mind, should I do this now? Should I wait 10 seconds or blah, 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 blah. So
it's like anticipate problems before they happen, let people know.
Kind of thing. You know, it's like at this point you should be looking for this, and if this happens, you need to do this. If this doesn't happen, then you continue to do this until this happens, kind of thing. But yeah, I definitely don't doubt our team at all. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be putting the amount of effort into the team.
You wouldn't be waking up at 5:30 in the morning.
No, I wouldn't be.
Or I'm sorry, waking up at 9 and staying up all at night until 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that's even worse. I go to bed when it's light and I wake up when it's dark. It's just throwing me. It's seriously throwing me.
All right, well, we never did get to your dark horse. Let's do the dark horse, and then it's just about Love Shack's time.
Okay.
So who do you think the dark horse is for the tourney?
The dark horse. I don't really have a solid opinion on this. I think if I'm going to talk about, like, from what I've seen, I would say that it's going to sound ridiculous to say it, but going off from what I've heard and what I've seen over the past week, I'm going to say skill ratio, actually.
Really?
Yes.
That does sound ridiculous.
They are a very good team. Okay, they're very experienced, fantastic team, cannot knock them for anything, but from what I see and what I heard, it looks like they've not played together for that long, that unless they can get some serious practice together, you know, to get back into the swing of things playing with each other, that there might be a lot of loopholes in their gameplay come the cut. So I feel like unless they actually start doing something, and I see that they're actually playing games against other guilds that are actually good, you know, like Waka Flocka, like Harvest, and so forth, that they may just not be enough in practice playing together as they need to be to take the whole thing. Which is why I know they have the potential, but I just don't think that they've applied themselves to it as much as they should have been doing. I think they kind of was like, oh, you know, because they do have a good reputation for being, like, arguably, if the best 19 pre-maiden guild at the moment. So they just kind of was, like, a bit egotistical to think that they don't need to practice until, like, the last week or 2 weeks prior to the tournament. I think that's a really naive thing to do and a bit arrogant, to be honest. So I'm going to say they're my dark horse, to be honest.
Well, that's fair, man. I enjoy hearing everyone's opinion on that. And I guess, real quick, just yes or no question. Will you be participating in the NWL after the Twink Cup? Do you know what that is?
I have no idea what that is.
All right, well, I guess that answers that then. Thank you, Blackout. I had a great time chatting with you. I know it's crazy late for you, or early. I'm not sure which one I should say.
It's 1 a.m.
Oh, that's not too bad.
It's not too bad, no.
You just woke up a few hours ago.
Exactly. I've got some pre-mades to do after this. So...
All right, I wish you luck in your pre-mades. Guys, I'm going to be coming up with Love Shack in about 5 minutes. I'll put a little video on, and I'll see you then. Be easy, Blackout.
Thank you. Bye.